A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth in moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we'll be talking a little bit about the impact of doing trauma work with Alisa Gracheva, who is passionate about trauma, who is a passionate trauma specialist dedicated to integrating traditional and alternative healing approaches to support lasting transformation, believing that trauma lives in the body and reconnection with the higher self is essential for true peace, and has spent years working with sacred plant medicine, energy work, sound healing, and integration. So, wow, what a beautiful bio. And you do have some inspiring expertise, especially in methods including EMDR, CBT, logotherapy, to name a few. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to get into trauma work and why it's so important for you to lend a hand to helping others as well?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I would gladly, again, tell more about my journey and about work that I do, because this is definitely my mission, my purpose. I love supporting people going through that. I feel like my journey began with my personal struggles. I'm an immigrant, actually. I moved to the United States when I was 18 years old. And before that, also growing up I was born in Soviet Union. Growing up in the reality of Russia it was a rough life back in the day. And so I feel like all of that led me to be more in tune with myself and learning about myself and how to navigate things that have been conditioned into me. And so all of that and healing my own traumas from life that I've accumulated as well from, transitioning to United States and facing certain experience. We all have traumas, but not a lot of us have the capacity to really face it and go forward with it, because it does require a lot of energy, dedication, consistency. It's a lot of work. And so going through that myself and healing myself, finding methods that work, led me to wanting to be of service in that capacity to other people who may be struggling as well, because I know how hard it is to get from that to a more peaceful and more self-actualized kind of state of being. And so that's my calling, and I love to be here of service with that work.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And yeah, it's so true. We do have so many different collective and individual cultural experiences that really influence our traumas often. And we can either place ourselves in the role of victim, which sometimes we actually are the victim. And it takes a while to kind of unravel that and feel into our true sovereignty, which is so difficult. Trauma healing and trauma work actually helps you dig so deep into your actual victimhood to begin kind of like healing and also forgiving yourself. Is there a lot of process of forgiving, do you feel, also with trauma work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I feel like there's so many layers to forgiveness as well. I love how you said about the being a victim. Sometimes we need to understand that we've been mistreated, and that requires us to kind of have that label, but not a label to be in, but just in general understanding that, wow, I've been a victim of this situation, of this, with this person, of this circumstance. But then how long do we stay there? Or we take this experience that happened to us and we do whatever we can to find a way out, and also to find how we can use and get a gift out of this experience that happened in order for us to get to this new level, to this new version of ourselves. And that can be, again, we're going to change regardless, but where do we change? Which way we go, whether we get more inspired and empowered to move forward, learn the lessons from the past, and then learning new ways of addressing similar situations or healing through similar journeys, or we get stuck in that. But forgiveness can come from not only forgiving the person who betrayed us or who did the harm, but also forgiving yourself, how we could have, not see what happened to us. How could we allow this to take place in our lives? So I feel like starting with working on forgiving yourself first for that, saying, I didn't know any better back then, because we always try to look back from where we are now with the knowledge and experience that we have and say, why was I doing this? Back in the day, we didn't know any better. And so I feel like giving yourselves grace for being who we were at that time in life, and then saying, I forgive you. I mean, you didn't know any better. let me let that go, because forgiveness allows us to move forward, and then working on, again, forgiving other people, forgiving, whatever aspects of that trauma that's been present there. And so that becomes a very inspiring process, but again, not easy. Self-forgiveness is the hardest thing. I feel like more often we can forgive others than we forgive ourselves, because we hold ourselves to that standard that can be unrealistic.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, 100%. It's so true. It's so easy in a way to forgive other people because we're also programmed to people please and to be of service to others, which is beautiful. But I feel like as empaths, a lot of us do focus outwardly so much more than inwardly, and we can't fully find peace within ourselves and gratitude for ourselves and the world we live in until we actually focus on ourselves. It's bravery because it feels awkward sometimes. We feel like we're selfish, but I think for people who want to connect to their higher self, and maybe you can talk a little bit about like what is the higher self for people who are new to this spiritual journey and
Mm-hmm.
experience. What is the higher self? What is the purpose of it? And how can we try to tune into it to find more connection to it? If you're ready to shake off that daily stress, come join us for online beginner adult ballet and yoga classes each week to connect with the flow of movement and the art of ballet into perfect synergy. Come as you are and learn to love your body a little bit more and gain strength and flexibility with each class. All are welcome. Sign up at balletartsmovement@gmail.com. First class free. TeleVital supports focus, energy, immunity, sleep, recovery, and resilience. Start feeling better today on a cellular level with zeolite, super green juice, micronutrient gut support, and more. Get over 50% off your first order for TeleVital. Link in the description of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be different for different people, because I feel like there are different concepts of higher self, even though in nature, in the essence, we can all come to the same kind of place eventually, right? When we're finding it's the essence of that is something that's so much bigger than just this human body that we live in. But for that, again, we have to come down from the restless mind and begin to learn about what is the energy that's moving this body. And I often ask people to tune into themselves and imagine, like, I know we're so deeply associated with these bodies. Obviously, we're humans. We have ego. You can't kill the ego. You're going to be the ego until the rest of your life. And when people say, let's kill the ego, that's you. That's you in this human form. Why do you domesticating that? This is a different story. I feel like we all are required to domesticate our mind and our ego, because that can take us places we don't want to go. But naturally disconnecting from that mind and becoming more aware of who is wearing this costume. Like, this is the costume we're wearing, this body, right? It's our sanctuary. But naturally, what's moving our hands, what's moving our body, especially when we move, we can experience this beautiful flow within ourselves, and meditation and prayer. That's why I love the sound healing and energy work. We get to tangibly experience something that may be fleeting or maybe very transparent in nature, because the energy is transparent, right? But yet it's so powerful if we're able to feel that and tune into that. And so I feel like becoming more aware, disconnecting from the mind and feeling being, right? It's like a felt sense that we can get from that. I feel like that's the beginning of that. And then we'll learn how this energy within ourselves connects to something bigger. And then we begin to see synchronicities, things begin to align. If we set ourselves, it's like we need to tune ourselves like a fine guitar, right? We need to find this little tuning. Then when we align to the perfect pitch, suddenly things begin to unfold for us without us trying to do anything, because we're moving into this higher vibration, we're moving into this higher frequency. And that requires a lot of surrendering. It requires, and surrendering not in a way I surrender to my circumstances. No, I surrender my mind. I come back home. The home is within ourselves now. And so I feel like when we learn to practice that, and again, that may take a long time, but it's so worth it, because it's going to open up many more doors.
That is so beautiful. I love everything you mentioned there. And it reminds me how you said, tune out of your mind. That's so true because that's helping us to connect out of our current adult busy mind that's always filled with chaos and unconscious thoughts. And oftentimes those thoughts can become toxic and stagnant and negative, like negative self talk. And we don't even become aware of that so often until we like stop and pay attention. And this reminds me of, I was watching interviews of Tom Cruise. His movie Mission Impossible came out, and he's talking about when he was a little boy, he was writing things down. Like he really wanted to travel and act. And he just kept writing it and he just kept going after it. And I feel like that inner child is within all of us and we have to connect to that aspect. I feel like that innocence, it's where the mind is not overthinking. It's that pure space of hope and faith and desire. What do you actually want? And are you giving yourself permission to feel it and to actually want it? Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial. Link in the description of the podcast. As we're growing up, we're programmed not to want things because it's seen as, again, like selfish, and we're supposed to be only serving others. And this perspective of, even with when it comes to parenting, like letting kids have their own toys, and there are some parents who are like, no, you have to share everything, you have to share every little toy you have. And it's like, this gives kids an unsafe feeling when they can't have anything that's their own. They don't have any awareness of like possession and feeling that they own something. And it's healthy to own something in a capacity that it's giving you, security and safety and peace. Obviously, greedy is a whole different end of the spectrum, but I feel like this helps us to connect to our higher self. It's that innocence, and it's also the ability to take something that is yours and move through the world.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like we have so much to learn from our inner child and so much to learn from the qualities that we used to have when we were little. And that, like you've said, right, that earning, that we have that curiosity, everything becomes, this is a playground everywhere. But then again, that's how trauma kind of gets encoded into us. And again, trauma, we're not talking about very intense experiences. It can be, again, not getting your needs met. If you don't have that, like if you have that toy that you love and your parent is coming, they're taking that away, you may feel again unimportant, unlovable, whatever that can create. And so that kind of puts a lens on our perspective and what we see in the world as well. And so we start projecting that fear and that insecurity out of the world, and we're not able to go and get curious again. We don't want to go and make those connections. We don't want to play because, again, what if I play and then it's going to be taken away from me or something will happen, right? We start having those fears. And I feel like allowing yourself, just like you said, connecting with your child self, with your inner child, can be a powerful and very incredible experience because we get to experience magic in simple things that are all around us. I have a lot of plants and I love to watch how they grow. For me, it's fascinating the desire to grow for them, even though you can clip something or cut something and then it starts sending roots right away. It wants to survive. It wants to live. It wants to, be this beautiful plant that it can be. And I feel like we have so much to learn from just nature and kids and things on the outside of ourselves. But because, like you've mentioned, the thoughts get toxic, we get into the cycles of thoughts that are usually based on our core beliefs. And that's why the cognitive behavioral therapy works magic to explore that. What are some core beliefs that's driving me? And usually looking at the thoughts and saying, okay, what is the pattern here? What am I thinking about? If, let's say, I think about people or not wanting to get new connections or having social anxiety, maybe underneath that, I have this belief that the world is not safe or nobody can be trusted or things of that sort, right? So exploring that and changing that, because core beliefs, we're never born with them. We learn them from life. And so I feel like becoming more in tune with our own processes can give us a lot of freedom in the future because we get to shape how we see the world and what we are. Is it a process? Yes. But then we allow ourselves to be more curious. We allow ourselves to be more in tune with the outside world, with experiences that we can enjoy and really, instead of being in this mind space, in the spiral, we actually are present because we're not in this, cloud of thoughts that is usually the same thing just running the show. And we begin to be more in tune with this present moment, and that's where miracles take place, is when we are present, when we are in this time and space and not everywhere else.
That's beautiful. Yes, I love that. And even like how we were having issues with the internet and trying to connect, it's like, how can we be present through the chaos? I feel like we have so much chaos that's always circulating us. And especially when we are shifting our energy field, that's when the most chaos starts coming at us. How we deal with that, it's kind of like a test, I feel like, from the universe sometimes, where it's forcing us to be accountable and present and to hold a sense of integrity, to be like, how can we handle this? Are we able to, you know, organically see the problem, create a solution? And I feel like it's also giving us opportunities to connect with aspects of our higher self in those moments. I think oftentimes through chaos, we're able to connect deeper. And like you mentioned, those roots of the plants and the trees, it's like those roots offer so much strength and power. And the foundation of strong roots takes just that. I feel like how we are able to handle chaos and integrate that through kind of holistic awareness, and also not putting us in the center of the blame. It's also huge because we love to blame something. So it's either, are we going to blame something externally or internally? I grew up learning to not to internalize, but I will sometimes blame somebody else. And it's like, is that fair? Are they actually at fault? And this, I had to kind of go through a period of testing my faith and also trust. Like, am I able to trust people? Because obviously, we have so much experience with betrayal and trauma. It's so uncomfortable to put your trust into somebody. And I feel like we all experience pain and suffering when we put our trust and the feedback is negative, or we feel so hurt and betrayed. And we do feel, in a way, disconnected from our higher self. And that's okay. That is just, I feel like that's a lesson for us. And maybe you can also share something about that experience if you experienced that. But I feel like being disconnected from your higher self, it feels really traumatizing, but that like recuperation process really helps to bring those strong roots back. And that takes a whole journey of going inward and also still being able to trust people, maybe obviously different people, and make your start fresh and bring in new people. But closing yourself off from trusting people, which I've tried, and it doesn't work, because you can never have any connection, compassion, any kind of camaraderie if you don't trust. Unlock your best life with Soul App. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the number one purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast. Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast. And trust begins with yourself. And even if you feel like you failed at that, that's okay. That just means you have to keep going. You just have to always keep going.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And I feel like there's either faith or fear, right? Unfortunately, we all want to, when we feel good and when we're aligned with our spirit, right? Everything flows. We're like, of course, my faith is strong. But when something happens, the chaos, you're like, well, where are you now? Instead of looking at it as like, okay, it's here for a reason. It's not here because it's the evil force created this experience. It's actually here for some reason that I don't see yet because I'm looking from this very limited human perspective. But if I, just like you said, right, keep going, of course, you will lose trust towards yourself, towards others. You'll get hurt. And I also love to look at when trauma happens. We're going to have a lot of experiences that cause us pain. It's going to be painful. But suffering, it's this other layer that we may or may not have based on our choice. If I choose to have that suffering, right, then I'm going to get stuck with that pain and questioning why me, why now, why this is happening. But if I look at it, okay, I don't know why it's here, but let me keep on going. I'm going to still believe. And that's where faith comes upon. And I say, I don't know why it's here, but I trust that afterwards, when it's been some time and I look back, if we take the most out of the situation and we work on being the best versions through that experience, practicing our faith, using new coping skills, exploration, because naturally all of this is here for us to learn. And if I get stuck with this new experience that's causing me pain, that means there is a solution that's going to be seen right around the corner. I just have to go with it, and I have to trust, and I have to exercise my power to believe in that higher force that is there for a reason. And I feel like that's the most beautiful experience, is after trauma has passed and after we're healing from that, and then we begin to realize that we're not the same people. I mean, we're naturally changing, but we're not the same people as we used to be before that trauma, whether we like it or not. But if we learn to like it and say, okay, I'm going to take it because there's a gift in that trauma, and I've overcome that, and then I look back and I say, wow, I don't wish that upon anybody, but I'm glad I had it. I'm glad it taught me this, because I'm now a new person with new qualities, with new knowledge, with new knowing. Knowledge is mental, knowing is in our, in our energy, in our essence. And this is such a beautiful experience. But yes, learning to trust, I feel like if we don't trust ourselves, we can't trust other people either. How can I? I mean, we're supposed to be our best friends. We're supposed to be our confidant. We have to learn that. But we negate ourselves. We put ourselves down. We, like you've said, we blame ourselves too for ourselves or other people, which is relevant. We're all here for something, even though sometimes it can be really hard to, again, there are certain experiences that are just really cruel. But speaking of, like you've said, right, there's that disconnect from higher self that can cause suffering. I think, in my personal belief, hell is life without God. Hell is literally life without our higher self, that we're not able to connect and get that feeling and love, knowing that everything is here for a reason. And so I feel like that's my personal hell, if I'm disconnected from my own source, and that's a very challenging experience.
Wow, that was so beautiful. I love how you said, like, we are reaching new levels of ourselves as we're healing. It's so true. And I think we actually have like new attachment styles as we're healing, because oftentimes we're going to go through trauma and we're going to shift towards anxious attachment. Obviously, I feel like a lot of us experience that. And then when we heal and we recover parts of our soul fragments from the ethers, we have like a new attachment style, which is so beautiful to see. It's like a flower starts to slowly bloom. We start to be more securely attached, and then we start to have more faith and trust in ourselves. That's such a beautiful thing. And I feel like we can all see that within ourselves, or even people we know, like our friends or family, when they have been doing healing and they're presenting a newer version of themselves. It's so beautiful. It's like a new aura is upon them. It's really incredible how healing really does affect the insides of your cells and your soul, and how it projects outwardly. Okay. Any last messages you have for our listeners, and also where they can connect with you and see your inspiring content?
Okay, so the last messages, right? Okay. So the messages for
Yes.
anybody who is listening: don't be afraid to explore healing options. Don't be afraid to explore yourself, to learn to be your best friend, because I feel like we all need some more work in that area. And again, not seeing, I feel like, not right away going for this conclusion that whatever is happening to me is happening to me. There's a gift in there, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find that gift, but it's so worth it to look for it and to know and to have that faith that it's going to be given to us, right? We just have to keep going and exploring what that experience can bring and where we can unfold further. So yes, it's a beautiful experience. Anybody who wants to connect, again, I provide a consultation. If you need, to get some second opinion or whatever, I'm here and I'm available. I have Psychology Today profile, also on Facebook. It's in Instagram. It's Alisa Art. My website is www.sense.life. So connect. Feel free. I'm open and receptive to all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your work and story. It's so inspiring. And hopefully, our audience can also connect to that aspect of themselves and feel more seen and heard and loved by their higher self.